Today, we're going to dive into a pretty cool musical mystery. It's the story of the piano's left hand and the revolution that's, well, finally setting it free.
You know, if you've ever sat down at a piano, you totally know this feeling. Your left hand just feels stuck, kind of doing the boring stuff while your right hand gets to have all the fun. And it's a super common frustration, but it turns out there's a very real reason for it.
For most of the piano's history, the left hand was basically the backup singer. And this wasn't just some stylistic choice that composers made. Nope. It was a decision that was actually rooted in the physics of the piano itself.
To really get why, you have to look at how a piano is actually built. The way sound works inside that big wooden box gave the right hand a natural advantage, right from the very beginning. See, it all comes down to acoustics. Higher notes, which are typically played by the right hand, they just resonate more. They have a stronger presence. They grab our ear. So early composers, being totally practical, just played to the instrument's strengths. The right hand got the melody. It was the star of the show. And the left hand, it was cast as the sidekick, providing harmony and support way down in the less noticeable lower notes. But you know how it is. Musicians are always pushing the envelope. So over time, some composers and pianists started to question this whole setup. They just knew the left hand was capable of so much more, and they were determined to prove it. And this rebellion was led by some real heavy hitters. You've got Carl Czerny, whose Opus 735 was basically a boot camp for your left hand. Then there's Émile Blanchet, who went and composed 64 preludes just for the left hand. I mean, wow. The legendary Chopin wrote these incredible etudes that just shattered what people thought was possible, which then paved the way for composers like Camille Saint-Saëns, who dedicated an entire collection to the left hand. These weren't just exercises, they were full-on musical statements. Okay, so these pioneers proved the left hand could be stronger, more agile, and way more expressive. But that just leads to an even bigger question, right? Could you ever really, truly level the playing field? And this, my friends, is where our story takes a really fascinating turn. The solution required looking at the piano not just as a musical instrument, but as a piece of design. And the person with that incredible vision was the pianist and composer Rudolf Ganz. Ganz had this total aha moment. He realized the piano keyboard isn't just a line of keys. It has 2 points of symmetry. He looked at it and saw a mirror. And that one simple observation held the key to a completely radical new way of playing. He came up with this technique called symmetrical inversions. The idea is actually pretty simple. What if you could take a piece of music and just flip it, like a mirror image? The part written for the right hand could now be played by the left, and the left hand's part could be played by the right. This was a concept that promised to finally make the hands truly equal. It sounds brilliant, right? A complete game changer. So why didn't every pianist on the planet just jump on this? Well, as it turns out, Gantz's revolutionary idea ran smack into a couple of major roadblocks. First, there was that pesky physics problem again. When you take a beautiful melody from the high, clear notes and flip it down to the lower register, well, it loses its clarity. It just sounds muddy. And at the same time, the accompaniment, now up high, becomes totally overpowering. The second issue was access, a huge one. Even if a pianist wanted to try this, where would they even get the music? The inverted sheet music just wasn't out there. Yeah, one source summed it up perfectly. The result of one of these symmetrical inversions was like a musical photo negative. The whole sonic balance was just completely off. It was such a brilliant idea, but in practice, it just didn't sound right. So for decades, symmetrical inversions were just this fascinating but totally impractical idea. But the story doesn't end there. It just needed a little 21st century magic to fix it. And this is where technology steps into the picture. A startup called KeySwap decided to take on these decades-old challenges, using modern software to finally bring Gantz's vision to life. So how does it work? It's pretty amazing, actually. A pianist sits down and plays the inverted piece. As they're playing, KeySwap's software remaps every single note in real time. So even though their fingers are playing the flipped version, what the audience hears is the music in its original register, with all of its intended beauty perfectly intact. So KeySwap basically solves both of the big problems. That issue of muddy flipped melodies, fixed thanks to the real-time note remapping. And the fact that you couldn't get the sheet music, well, KeySwap is building a whole digital library of inverted scores, making this amazing technique accessible for the very first time. This is a huge, huge step forward. It really makes you appreciate the original visionary here. Rudolf Ganz. I mean, he had this incredible idea decades and decades before the technology even existed to make it a reality. It's just a powerful reminder of how art and technology can come together in the most surprising ways.
This whole journey started with a simple question about the piano's left hand. And it just goes to show you, even in a world as old and established as classical music, there are always new discoveries just waiting to be made. So the next time you're listening to a piano piece, pay a little extra attention to that left hand. You might be really surprised by the hidden depths you uncover.